Secretary, could you call the roll?
Sure. Chairman Carney.
I'm here.
Board Member Twan Davis. Board Member Hernandez Ketchum.
Here.
Board Member Adam Freed. Board Member Jay Gold. Board Member Jim Haston. Board Member Arlen Shaw.
Thank you very much. We'll get right into it. First of all, welcome staff and guests. We've got some special guests with us today. We'll put them to work in a while. Really the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the 18 June meeting. Members have had an opportunity to review those minutes. Are there any proposed changes, recommended changes, corrections? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please? So moved. Thank you, Judge. Is there a second? Evelyn, thank you. Thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye. 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 Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the report on the independent auditor's report on the audit financial statements for the fiscal years in 2018 and 2017. The authorization for the release of the audited financial statements. I'll begin the meeting by saying that the audit committee, the joint audit committee of the authority and the water board met immediately preceding this meeting and that voted to recommend to both this board and to the board of the Water Finance Authority that the audited financial statements be approved and released. A few facts. The statements indicate we had operating revenue last year about $3.7 billion and expenses that were at or about the same, a bit more actually. The authority issued $2.3 billion in debt financing last year, and but $1.4 billion of that was for refunding. There's a new accounting standard applicable to this year's financial statements, and they reviewed that with the joint committee. They reviewed the significant judgments made by management, that is the auditors reviewed the significant judgments made by management, and all of those judgments were deemed to be reasonable. No adjustments were necessary, no significant issues, and importantly, we got an unmodified opinion with no significant deficiencies in the material weaknesses. That, I think, concludes the report. John, did you want to add? Two of us were there.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
As I said, the audited financial statements are recommended for our approval. Are there any questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please? So, thank you, John. Second? Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye. 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 Motion carries unanimously. The third item is the approval of the investment guidelines and the fiscal year 2018 report. Are we going to get a report on that, or is it set?
No, it's the only comment would be the investment income improved this year, mainly due to higher portfolio that the board owns is almost entirely short duration treasury securities. We benefit from higher short-term rates. Okay. That's the explanation.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any questions? I'm sorry. Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the investment guidelines? They were in your materials. You've had a chance to review them. So moved. Thank you, John. Second. Second. Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye. The next agenda item, dispositions of Department of Environmental Protection property in Bedford and Brewster, New York. We are going to get a report on that, I believe. How do you want to handle this? Shall we ask the commissioner? Let me get that in the record. Assistant Commissioner David Warren is here. He's the Assistant Commissioner of the Bureau of Water Supply, and he is going to tell us about this proposed resolution. David, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's my pleasure to be here. This morning, I have a short presentation on the proposed dispositions that I'd like to go through. I'm joined by Robin Bean, Senior Counsel from DEP's Bureau of Legal Affairs. We work very closely with BLA on these dispositions. Shoken Reservoir, so appreciate that very much. So this morning, we're requesting water board approval for disposition of one parcel in the town of Bedford that would allow for the continued use and expansion of the community center of northern Westchester, and I'll describe what that is in a minute, as well as disposition of 3 parcels in the village of Brewster. They're currently being used for municipal purposes under land use permits issued by DEP, and one of them is really critical for a redevelopment project in the village of Brewster. None of these parcels that we're going to be discussing today have any need or benefit for water supply purposes, and by that I mean there are no facilities on them currently. They're not suitable for any future facility that Bureau of Water Supply might need to construct, and they're not providing any benefit in terms of water quality protection. Dispositions will afford us some relief on taxes and the stewardship obligations associated with overseeing the properties. Each of the dispositions comes with a commitment from the local community to fund and implement water quality improvement projects, so there is a benefit to the water supply in that regard. And each of them is beneficial for our relationships with the communities. We partner with the communities that host the portions of our water supply system, and so the goodwill associated with these dispositions it will help with that relationship. This is just an overview map of the portions of our water supply system that are located east of the Hudson River. So primarily the Croton supply system, located as about 400 square miles, primarily in northern Westchester and Putnam counties. And the parcels we're going to be talking about are here in Bedford, here in the village of Brewster. And then there are 2 parcels that I'll mention that we're in discussions with the Putnam County that may transfer back to the city. So let's start with the Bedford parcel. This is a map of the portion of the town of Bedford known as the village of Katona. You may be familiar with Katona. And the parcels outlined in blue actually were one assemblage of property that was purchased or condemned actually by the city at the time the reservoir system was constructed. So all of that in blue was one parcel. The portion we're talking about today is just this 7.9 acre piece that was part of that assemblage. It is separated from the rest of the portion and from the reservoir by the Metro North Railroad line, the Harlem line that goes up through Katona there. And that's about 7.9 acres in total. So our proposal is to subdivide 2.1 acres of that 7.9 acre parcel and transfer it to the town of Bedford. That parcel has an existing building on it that dates from the time the city took the property when the reservoir was constructed in the late 1890s. And since 1997, the community center of northern Westchester has been using that building under a land use permit from DEP. The community center of northern Westchester provides services to low-income residents in the area. They have a food bank, they have a clothing bank, they provide educational programs, vocational services, job search support, and they really do a wonderful job. I encourage you to look at their website. They really do great service to a community that is probably not well served in a relatively affluent portion of Westchester County. The services that the community center provides are in increasing demand, and they would like to expand their facility to meet that demand. They would like to construct another building on the property. They have begun to reach out to potential donors to see if they can secure funding for that expansion. And one of the concerns that donors have raised is that the community center of the town does not own the property, and donors are concerned about committing to a project when the facility is really just under a series of 5-year revocable land land use permits from the city of New York. So the town and the community center came to us together to propose a transfer of the property to the town. The town has been a really terrific partner in recent years. We are working on a sewer project in the village of Crotona with them that would take primarily commercial properties, although some residential properties that are now served by septic systems right on the banks of the Muscoot reservoir, and put them into a modern wastewater treatment plant and improve water quality. So the town of Bedford has been a great partner in recent years. In addition, the transfer would relieve DEP of approximately $10,000 a year that we pay in property taxes on the parcel, as well as the stewardship responsibilities for overseeing the use of this parcel. This is our proposal to subdivide the 7.9 acre property and carve off the 2.1 acres that currently houses the community center and their parking. The subdivision would be done at the expense of the town of Bedford. DEP would not incur any cost for that subdivision process. And this is a rough plan of what the community center envisions for the property. There's the existing building here. They'd like to put a new building approximately the same size, immediately adjacent, improve some of their parking. As I mentioned, one of the components that is important to us for water quality protection is that the town has committed to do some sort of stormwater project, stormwater control project on the property, something that will be subject to our approval. On this plan, they just identified it as a rain garden. It may or may not be an actual rain garden. It could be some other kind of stormwater control project that would protect water quality. The property is also currently served by a septic system. That septic system would be decommissioned and the wastewater from the facility would go into a sewer system. So I'll pause here and ask if there are any questions about the Bedford project before I move on to the Brewster projects.
Commissioner, who owns there's a parking lot just adjacent to the property? Yeah.
Here?
Yes.
So that is, there's a small shopping center, sort of a strip mall kind of shopping center. Has a post office, a drugstore, a pizza place, a hairstyling parlor. And that's all privately owned, immediately adjacent to our property.
It appeared that the shopping center might have been using some of the parcel that they're about to subdivide for parking for its customers. Obviously, they're going to lose that.
Well, I think it's fair to say that they have been using it for spillover parking onto our property.
Yep.
And so, yes, they probably would lose access to that parking under this.
I'm fine with that, Commissioner. I was just curious to know how we were dealing.
It's a good observation.
What is the name of the community center, and what is the current land use permit agreement?
So the community center is the community center of Northern Westchester. And the current land use permit that's issued by DEP allows use of the property and the building for purposes of running their programs, the community center programs. It's a very unusual land use permit for us. We have virtually no other land use permits that are allowing an external entity to use one of our structures. Our land use permits generally allow for access over the property, say for a driveway or utility or something like that. This is a very unusual permit for us.
So there's no having to pay for any monthly maintenance fee or anything like that?
All of the costs for operating the facility are borne by the community center. They pay us a $25 a year nominal fee for the land use permit, but we don't incur any costs for the actual operation of the community center itself.
Have we looked into whether there is appetite from donors to potentially supply the funds to build the additional facility? Will it be to provide an extended land lease that would be on the 5-year term as opposed to conveying the property piece of it?
So we did talk with the town and the community center about the option of some kind of longer term lease. town and the community center have a very close relationship. The former supervisor of the town is on the board of the community center. And the town very much supports having this facility there. It's a great location. There's a bus stop immediately in front of the property, and just a little bit north in the Katona, there's a Bedford Railroad stop, so that some of the clients who may not have access to a car can get there by public transportation. It's really an ideal location for this facility.
And you mentioned that the town has been a good partner in some of the work that DEP has been doing. I wonder if you could just expand on that.
Sure. So right now the town is doing a project to build a sewer system to serve the hamlet of Katona, particularly the commercial properties. That has been a project that has been contemplated for nearly 20 years, and the current supervisor has done a really outstanding job in terms of convincing the community that it is in the long-term interest of the community to have a sewer system serving their commercial district. He has expended a tremendous amount of time and effort to make that a reality. They are actually taking over an existing wastewater treatment plant that's owned by the Department of Correction. It serves the Bedford Correctional Facility. And so in addition to working with his community, he has done a lot of work with the Department of Corrections to arrange for a transfer of that facility into the community. That's probably the primary project that we've been working with them on. We have some other smaller things that have been in progress, but the sewer project is really one that we think will have real benefits for water quality protection.
And those benefits were down to our system.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this Katona is right on the banks of the Muskie Reservoir, and soils there are very sandy. They're very porous, and so our view is that any septic systems are probably not providing much in the way of treatment, and wastewater flow is getting pretty quickly into the reservoir. We see very high nutrient levels in the reservoir there that are probably partially at least as a result of the septic systems.
Thank you very much.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sir?
This property that's being released from the lease, it's not income producing, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so the water system is not losing any revenue as a result of this action.
Other than the $25 fee that we get for the land use permit.
Okay. And second point is, what's actually happening here is that the water board is releasing these properties from the lease, and it's the city that's transferring this property to the town.
That's my understanding, yes.
That's correct.
That's
Just
correct.
for the record. Just for the
That's
record.
correct, and under the administrative code, it provides that property from the city, from the watershed, can be transferred to another municipality without consideration. There is consideration here, but it was conceived that there would be these kind of transfers.
Mr. Reeves?
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Very much appreciated.
But, sorry, just to be clear, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
So you said we are considering whether to release them from the lease. Who then makes that judgment in terms of the final judgment in terms of the conveyance of the property?
Now, the property is going to go back under the control of the city. Okay, under the lease provisions, we can do this under several conditions. One is if we don't need the property, which is for now or for future purposes, which we've already established. And two, that we get a letter from our consultant saying that it's not going to have any material adverse effect on the revenues of the board. And there's a letter to that effect that's been presented.
I think I may not be following what I understood you to say a moment ago, though, was that our judgment here today is whether to release the town from its obligations of the lease, not the judgment as to whether to pay the property.
No. What we're doing here is we're taking the property that's the subject of this discussion right now is leased to the board from the city. What the action we're taking right now is to take this property out of the lease so that the city will have control of it, so that it can execute the disposition that's just been described here.
And who at the city or what arm of the city makes that judgment as to payments to fund make the transfer to
That would
town?
be, well, I'll defer to Robert, but I
It
believe.
goes to the deputy mayor. There's a process, once this is done, there's a second process that we have to follow. And eventually, I believe the mayor's delegated to the deputy mayor the decision to do that.
So Robin, the decision to transfer the fee has not been made yet. We
This
have
is the
reason-
first step.
Right, we have reason to believe that it will be made.
Absolutely, and I will say, the good judgment of the board has always been followed by the judgment of the deputy mayor. I'm not aware that that's ever been a situation, so your action today is very important.
Understood.
But yes, that's always
And your description
been
is
my
sufficient.
experience.
But it's very helpful to understand what we're actually voting.
Right.
And that, I think, either, and again, Al or Robert, that pertains to all real property of the system. The board
It's a
does
two-step
not.
process.
Right, we do not own any of the real estate. All the real estate is owned by the city of New York. We are
Right,
just
we're
the
leasing it.
Yes.
And all of the dispositions following, all of the dispositions were discussed today, it's the same.
Okay, terrific.
And that's the same when we buy land. We are not buying land, the city is buying land, and then it becomes incorporated into the lease.
Right.
So it works the reverse as we're. Yes. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, yes, we are paying for it. The city's not out anymore.
Commissioner, thank you. Are you?
So,
No,
if this
fine,
is
you're not finished, please.
talk about the Brewster project?
Yes, please,
Okay.
because I think we're voting, well, no, we're not voting on the Brewster project yet, so why don't we take the vote now on this piece?
Okay.
And ask you to come back. Are there any other questions from the members? Hearing none, the resolution is contained in your packet. It reads, "The consent to the donation to the town of Bedford, New York, of a real property building used in the operation of the community center of northern Westchester." Are there any questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve this? So moved. Thank you, John. Second?
Second.
Mr. Kelly, thank you very much. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye. The motion carries unanimously. The resolution is approved. Commissioner, you have the floor. Thank you.
So, now let's pivot and talk about the Brewster project. The Village of Brewster, located in Putnam County, again, in the Croton portion of our water supply system, is working on a redevelopment project for the village center. It's a transit-oriented development project, which takes into account adjacency to the Metro North line that has a stop right there in the Village of Brewster. And it is a mixed-use proposal to redevelop part of the village with public space, residential properties, commercial properties. The county is partnering very closely with the village on the project. The county has been awarded a $2 million grant from the Empire State Development Grants Program in support of this project. And from a water quality perspective, this is exactly the kind of redevelopment project that we like to see. It's taking development into an area that already is developed, that has stormwater and wastewater infrastructure. And it's much better to see that kind of development in a concentrated area than to have a similar amount of development spread across undisturbed lands throughout the watershed. So this is exactly the kind of development that we think is really compatible with our goals of water quality protection. This is a map of the village of Brewster. The outline here is the village boundaries. The three parcels we're going to talk about are outlined in blue here, here, and here. And then this is just the head end of Diverting Reservoir, which is one of the 12 reservoirs that make up the Croton system. So I'll start by talking about this parcel right here. So this is the key parcel for the transit-oriented development project. This is Main Street in the village of Brewster. This is the Metro North train station right here. This project property currently owned by the city is about half the property. You can see the eastern half of the property is used as a parking lot for the Metro North station there. And the proposal as part of the transit-oriented development project is to take this parcel and to, they're redeveloping a couple of these buildings and extend some commercial and residential properties in here, again, immediately adjacent to the railroad station. I will point out, and I'll come back in a minute, to this parcel that is also owned by DEP. I'll come back to that in a minute and talk about some of the water quality improvements that we're looking for on that parcel. When the county and the village approached us about this parcel as part of their redevelopment project, we decided to take a look at the entirety of our holdings in the village of Brewster and see whether there are other properties that might be appropriate for transfer to the county or the village. This is a property, Markel Park. Again, the portion outlined in blue is owned by the city. Over time, through a series of land use permits, the village has developed ball fields, basketball courts, parking area. There's actually a sewer pump station located on the southern end of the parcel. And so, given that that property is no longer being used for any water supply purpose, it really would have no value for us in terms of future use as a water supply property, we are proposing to make that part of this disposition. And then the third parcel is just south of that. This is a small parcel which is sort of sandwiched in between the Metro North Rail line here, the Main Street Bridge coming in down onto Main Street in the village of Brewster. This parcel previously had a portion of the property was taken by DOT for this Main Street Bridge. They are now rebuilding, planning to rebuild that bridge and actually realign it somewhat so that the curve here is not so sharp. They're going to bring it in across this way. And so they are looking to actually take more of that parcel from the city for that bridge realignment project. And we felt that it would be better if the Putnam County owned that property and dealt with DOT rather than having us have to deal with DOT. So, in consideration for these transfers, we've been working closely with Putnam County, and they have agreed to provide some improvements on this parcel. So this is the one that I showed you that's just south of the parcel that's needed for the development project. Again, city-owned land. A portion of this is used again for parking for the railroad station. This used to be the site of a wastewater treatment plant owned and operated by the city that served the village. In the late 90s, early 2000s, we constructed a new wastewater treatment plant over here that serves the village. It's now owned and operated by the village, and this plant was decommissioned. What the county has committed to do at their expense is to remove this parking lot and undertake wetland restoration and stormwater improvements on this property. Designs for those have not been done yet, but they will be done to the satisfaction of DEP. We'll get approval on what is intended to be done there. The site of the former wastewater treatment plant will be improved with some plantings and other amenities, and all of that will be done at the expense of the county. I did want to just mention that in parallel, we have been talking with the county every year as part of their tax foreclosure process. The county takes title to certain properties located in the county. They have offered they essentially asked us to take a look at the properties that they now control and see if there are any that would be of interest to us for the city to own. We have done that, and there are two parcels that we are interested in having further discussions with the county on. They are located in the West Branch Basin, Reservoir Basin, which is part of our unfiltered supply. So most of the east of Hudson is part of the Croton system, which is filtered, but the West Branch Basin operates as part of the unfiltered supply. And those are areas, that is an area where we have been acquiring land for water quality protection since 1997. There are two parcels that abut current city holdings. They do have development potential, and we would like to pursue transfer of those properties from the county to DEP. We have not yet done our due diligence on these properties, so we haven't done any title surveys, we haven't done any site assessments to see if there are any contaminants on the property. So we're not yet prepared to say that we absolutely want these properties, but we do intend to continue conversations with the county for potentially taking on those lands. So, any questions about the Brewster project?
A quick question I have is with respect to the parcels that we are interested in acquiring, I understand the point that we don't yet have all the information to make a judgment as to whether it's sensible to actually acquire them. But before we do that, are we ceding leverage vis-a-vis the county if we make the transfer, then come as a supplicant rather than as a trading partner asking for those other parcels?
I think that's a fair question. My view is that the county wants to, they don't want to hold more property than they absolutely have to, right? They much prefer that these properties that they've taken in part of tax foreclosure are owned by somebody else, in this case, would be the city. So I think they are motivated to dispose of those properties to us, and I don't think that it's really necessary to leverage the Brewster disposition in order to make sure that those properties, if they are deemed suitable, do come into our portfolio.
Or would we have to pay for them, or would they be granted us?
That would be granted to us for the cost.
Commissioner, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and for the record again,
Yes.
these properties are not income producing for the board, is that correct?
That is correct. We do, under the land use permit for the property that has the Metro North parking lot on it, we do get a portion of the income that the village collects for charging people to park there for railroad station access. I don't actually have that figure.
Well, the consultant has said that it's an immaterial amount.
Yeah.
But this was, just for the record, we wanted to know that.
And I
Thank you.
believe under the lease, those incomes would accrue to the city anyway, because they're not water system revenues.
One last question, sorry. Are these businesses that are along the properties or that are
Yeah,
listed here? And does that matter at all?
So the last slide I actually didn't cover. Again, these are the three parcels that we're talking about, the transit-oriented development, the Markel Park, and then the one with the bridge. And this just shows the current mix of land use permits that we have in place on those parcels. And so you can see this one is to the village for the ball fields and the parking. We have one located here for Verizon conduit, another Verizon use here along some park spaces to the county, to the town, village. And then these two relate from a land use permit that was issued, I believe, in the 1940s that allowed the diner to be on a portion of the city property. So those are just some of the permits. It gives you a flavor say that even though they were moving parking lots, the development proposal includes replacing and in fact enhancing the parking capacity so that there won't be a net loss of parking in that area for the people who access the property, who access the railroad station. We've also, in meetings with the village mayor and village manager, they have represented that there's strong support in the community for this development proposal. So we have every reason to believe that we're not stepping into the middle of a fight here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You alluded to something a second ago that piqued my curiosity. It's an unfair question on you. We cannot have an answer for it. But
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, well, it does. But the city does appear to own huge amounts of land around the state, various portions, mostly close to the city as opposed to distant. But is there some interesting history to the city's ownership of these three separated parcels of land in Bristol?
I think what you're seeing here is a pattern that we've seen in a few places. It's not widespread across the watershed, I would say, but where we had historical takings associated with the construction of the water supply system, and then over time, as the communities have developed around the area, some of our parcels that were a little further away from the infrastructure, a little further away from the reservoirs, have just become sort of orphaned or isolated.
Sure.
And so, particularly in some of these areas, like Brewster, like Bedford, where you've seen fairly concentrated growth in the intervening 125 years since the system was built, we have some examples like this where we have little bits of land here and there. Mostly our lands are contiguous, immediately adjacent to the reservoirs, or as part of our land acquisition program, much larger parcels that we're purchasing to prevent development and protect water quality. Some of these, particularly east of Hudson, historical acquisitions have become kind of spread out like this.
It's interesting. Thank you very much. We have a resolution. I'll read it. It's consent to the donation to either the Village of Brewster or the County of Putnam, New York, of three separate parcels of real property for use in a transit-oriented development. Are there further questions from the member? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution? So moved. Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Ellen, thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Commissioner, thank you for being here. And Robin, thank you for being here. I intended to introduce you when I introduced the commissioner, and I just, for whatever reason, didn't do that. It's good to have you. The next agenda item will lead to a consent ultimately. There will be a presentation of the disposition of the Department of Environmental Protection property in Brooklyn, New York. And I don't know, Mr. Gore, are you the person to do that?
Yeah, should we both do it?
Sure.
Do you want to take the lead?
Sure. I mean, were the two of you going to do a tandem presentation?
I'll make a quick overview. You can jump in.
So we have fewer visual aids for this one because the property in question is a vacant lot in Point Brooklyn. The city acquired this lot in 1964 and promptly thereafter built a sludge tank on it. Sludge being the waste product that comes from wastewater treatment plants. The sludge tank continued to be on the site until about 2014 when it was demolished. And since that time, this lot has been entirely vacant. Meanwhile, the Greenpoint neighborhood has been taken off and become more residential in nature compared to its past history of being more commercial, industrial warehousing. The city is obviously very supportive of that and just eager to see more residential development taking place. So a vacant lot in that area is kind of an odd thing. It opens itself up to higher and better use. And separate from that is an oddity of the lot itself, which is the lot actually overlays a street that exists on maps, but is as yet not built. This is West Street here. For ancient historical reasons, but possibly just a mistake 100 years ago. This lot line, this little red box here, is a part of a lot that sits over the street, which is odd. The request today is to take this red box, which is about 1/20th of an acre, and allow lease from the lease this segment for transfer to the city's transit department to support a street construction project in which West Street would be extended completely to improve transportation in the area. The city and DEP would retain their ownership of the remaining portion of the lot, which is about 1/4 of an acre for future use, TBD on that, but probably not as much as again. The street building project is an interesting arrangement because the DOT partnered with a local developer behind the Greenpoint Landing project to construct the street. The developer paid for the construction. The street would remain in the ownership of the transit department going forward. The developer already has title to this initial segment here that's needed to complete the construction, and that would become the proper DOT too once the construction is complete. That's the basic overview. It's a vacant lot. We can build a street at no cost, improve the flow of traffic in the area, and help support residential development and the creation of housing. Some portion of it affordable. But Tika, is there anything you want to add to that?
Before you do that, this is Tika Guru, who is a project manager with the Department of Transportation, City's Department of Transportation.
Chair, members, my name is Tika Gurung. I'm the Director of Land Use Review, DOT. And this particular block of waste utility is not improved right now, but we are going to put it in our capital project to improve this. The northern half of the street is city-owned. Eastern half of northern half is part of that lot 6. Western half is under the Department of SBS, Small Business Services. Southern half is owned by the developer on the west side, who are proposing a very large-scale residential development, maybe about 5,000-6,000 residential units. So we are going to put this and open the street for better circulation, and we'll have a greenway plan going through there. If we put it in our capital project, it's going to take a longer time. So at this point, developer Park Town Group is willing to improve the street at their own cost, and the southern half that is owned by the developer will be donated to the city at free of cost to the city. So we are going to bring all the properties under DOT jurisdiction, and then go into an agreement with the developer for them to build the street, and when it's said and done, transfer everything to the city.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Any questions for either Mr. Guru or Omar Nasser?
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I just want to make clear too that this will remain city property, because it is just a clear transfer from us to DOT.
Thank you. There is a resolution in your package. Its title is Consent to Disposition of .062 acres of Lot 2494, Lot 6, Borough of Brooklyn, New York. It's a little more than a 20.
What's that?
A little more than a 20.
A little.
If there are no questions for either of these gentlemen, may I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Second? Second. Thank you, Juke. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye. There are none opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you both very much.